All right, 2015 Kia Sportage, 4-cylinder, 2-wheel drive. We're gonna be changing out rear shocks. So, first thing you need to do, remove the wheel. 21 millimeter wheel bolts, or wheel nuts, I'm pretty sure is what's supposed to be on there. We had 19 millimeter wheel nuts. I don't know, let me know in the comments what size came on yours. Got the wheel off. Now, this suspension style, we've got a shock absorber, and then independently we've got a coil spring that runs onto a lower control arm. So what we need to do is support the weight of the coil so that when we take the shock off, the coil doesn't want to push everything down, because this is going to be trying to push down. So I've got this jack stand supporting this lower control arm so that it cannot come down. And what we're going to do is just take the bolts out of the shock now. So we've got one bolt that's at the very bottom, and it's a 19 millimeter head on the bolt with a 19 millimeter nut. And then we've got two 14 millimeter bolts that bolt into the body via the mount. So let's go ahead and get this nut off of here. Have to go get a better gun. Okay, try to throw a wrench on here. Can't see what I'm doing. That's okay. Okay, the nut is off. And our bolt is out. Now we're going to swap out for this 14 millimeter socket. See if I can get up in here. Somebody put the shock right here. All right, now we got to get this thing out. So I'm going to see if I can get this out without lowering this down. Just compress it all the way. Remove it before it expands. And now we need to transfer this mount over to our new shock. This is our new shock. We have the OE Spectrums. Looks the same. So looks like we've got a 14 millimeter nut that's on the top for the mount. There's an isolator, and we've got this cover as well that's going to cover the stanchion. You can see these shocks, there's a metal clip that keeps the shock compressed during storage. And yeah, I'll show you a couple things when we go to undo this, but let's get this off first. I'm gonna try with just the impact gun and see if I can get this nut off, but you see the very top of this, how it's just got a drive on it. We can put a wrench on it, and then to hold the stanchion from spinning while we use another wrench to remove the nut. There is actually a special socket kit that you can buy specifically for shocks for doing that, but we're not gonna do that. Okay, 17 millimeter nut off with the mount. We've got this little ring here. We've got our damper, and that's pretty much it. So now we can take our new one. We can just pop this off. And you can see it looks like our new shock already has that ring piece on it, so we don't need that. The only reason this is here is for the shock mount to sit up against, but ours is built in. So we install our damper. It might. Just like that. And this goes on. And then we need to install our nut. Now, once we get this together, we want to, actually we did get a new nut with it. Maybe we'll just use that. Looks like they were both the same thread pitch, so that's nice. Once we get this tightened down, we want to cycle the shock a few times by just compressing it and letting it come back out while having the shock straight up. And that's just going to eliminate any possibility of air buildup inside the shock reservoirs and give you best results. So let's go get you a torque spec so we can torque this nut down. All right, we got, oops. Okay, we need to torque this top nut to 18 foot-pounds. That's the spec. And I'm using a fuel line socket to get around this, because normally you would use like 2 wrenches, or like I say, there is actually a specific socket set that is similar to this. However, it's kind of like an oxygen sensor where you can go in through the top of the socket, and it has a drive for the ratchet on the side. So fuel line socket works good. 18 foot-pounds, if you know what that feels like, you could just try it on a bolt a couple times so you know what it feels like, and then use a wrench or something like that if you don't have the right tools. But anyhow, so this is on here, we're together. Let's cycle this thing. So yeah, all you're gonna do is just literally compress it all the way and then let it come up. Repeat that 3 or 4 times, and that just purges any air that might be stuck in the reservoir inside of the shock body. All right, so I did just compress the shock completely and then sort of held on to it and stuck it in there and then just let it expand into place. We got our 2 bolts at the top. I'm just gonna start everything before I tighten everything down. We got our bolts in there. So this big bottom bolt gets torqued to 115 foot-pounds. And okay, so the top ones get torqued to 45. We'll throw a torque wrench on this now. Okay, then we'll do the top ones. I'm just going to buzz them down with the impact gun. All right, that's all torqued. Now we can just let this down. And we're pretty much ready to put our wheel on, and that should be that. Let me get this wheel on. Alright, so all we got left is just to torque these down in a 5-star pattern. And the torque spec, I believe, is 80 foot-pounds. I like to do them to 100. That's just my preference. And after 100 kilometers, do a retorque. That's pretty much it as far as how to replace the rear shocks on your 2015 Sportage. If you got any questions, throw them in the comments below. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have. If you liked the video or found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, so on the driver's side, this shield that protects, it's the fender liner, protects the filler neck. It's very close to this bolt. So if you're using an impact gun or something like that and a socket, I'm just using a flex to be able to get in there because I can't get my gun in there with just a straight socket on, right? So just a forewarning.